Hey guys, some gamer dude here. After writing the last two videos I made on Crossride and Dragonic Overlord The End, I got thinking about how much the game has changed from the original era to the GZ era, necessitating a reboot to bring everything back to a balance.
Back to the beginning.
Clip comes in so much use in my videos lately. Anyway, Vanguard changing is usually put on the shoulders of Dragonic Overlord The End and the Crossride mechanic. Asia Circuit did nothing. This necessitated Break Ride and Archetypes. Then we got Legion and finally G. But I am questioning, why does the Asia Circuit get a free ride? When the original block of Vanguard ended, things weren't good. Royal, Kagero, Oracle Think Tank and Nova Grappler were given enough for multiple decks, though Nova Grappler didn't even have one good one. Kagero, Royal and Oracles had good cards in most every grade. Meanwhile, most other clans, if they were completed at all, just had enough for a deck. One solitary deck. Not something functioning or good, just a deck. Shadow Paladin was somewhere in between. Most clans barely did anything and didn't have multiple sets of offensive triggers to use. Vanguard was in a sad, pathetic state, but it was fixable. Then Asia Circuit came along and fixed nothing. Asia Circuit in retrospect is very strange. It cut off support for Kagero, Shadow Paladin and Royal Paladin, replacing them with Narukami and Gold Paladin. Introduced Angel Feathers, flushed out Great Nature and supported all other clans to some degree. On surface level, this seems fine, but as we all know, this amounted to nothing. The big three from Block 1, Tsukuyomi, Dragonic Overlord The End, and Majesty Lord Blaster, dominated the format until they were restricted so hard that they were effectively banned. It is very arguable that the Asia Circuit was nothing but bad set after bad set, but this only becomes apparent once you introduce BTO5 and BTO9 to the card pool. As the English format knows all too well, take BTO5 and BTO9 out of the equation and things start playing well. This feeds into the idea that the big three and the Crossroad mechanic itself were the problem, but that's not the case. The second block was bad from start to end in its original context because the bulk of the first block was bad itself. In retrospect, Asia Circuit did a hell of a lot wrong. It made some very circumstantial cards to try to put a dent in the Crossride's defense. Many bosses with the limit break mechanic weren't worth the limit break restriction, and Bushiroad never gave clans the support they really needed. Worst of all, it carried on Bushiroad's asinine new support, new boss mentality that hurt Nova Grappler so badly. Asia Circuit was weak and largely incoherent. It seems to me there was this massive issue in development. BTO 6 through BTO 8 feel like they weren't made with knowledge of what BTO 5 did to the game, and that focus in design would be needed. They were likely designed prior to or as BTO 5 was releasing in Japan, and it was too late to do anything. Nothing was really on par with the big three. Things got largely better in the Link Joker era, problems with Link Joker itself aside, because in many ways it was what the Asia Circuit should have been. Clans came out with a pretty decent boss, a beta in both Grade 1 and Grade 2, something on hit in Grade 2, and some technical things in Grade 1. The decks were far more cohesive, if insular. If Asia Circuit had been designed to be on par with BTO 5, it would have been much closer to the Link Joker and G eras in design mentality. The game already focused on the Grade 3 heavily at the time. It should have gone harder on that. The Crossride itself was already turning the tide to that idea. Any boss introduced and deemed important enough should have been given a better V and K clone, and some strong units specific to that boss. Make that boss strong and give it the capabilities from the get-go to combat the meta. Maybe even archetypes in terms of things like beast deities. Yes, things like crossrides, retrains, and units in the vein of banding Jewel Knight Miranda would have happened much earlier, but the complete dead zone that the Asia Circuit was in its original release pattern wouldn't have happened. The power gap between the big three and everyone else at the time would have been much closer, if not closed. Bedivere and K clones may not have been necessary, as we had Garurubao earlier, something that was cloned much later but never had a grade 2 equivalent, and the Limit Break Force support that included a grade 2 8k that became 11 when attacking if you had a Limit Break 4 Vanguard probably would have sufficed for beaters, but the bosses and rearguard needed to have better power across the board. Things needed to look closer to the Link Joker block, minus the archetypes and break rides. I can't imagine what the game would have been like with these massive changes in the Asia circuit, but I'm sure the game would have been much closer to the G era in terms of set design, more dependent on new bosses with new concepts or retrains to spice the game up over new mechanics every new block. Gradually introduce new decks with new ideas, but put them on a strong power level from the get-go. I believe this was one of the stronger aspects of the G era. Looking back at the first two eras of Vanguard and their controversial aspects while being far removed from the problem was actually enlightening, especially from a Western standpoint. You could see how certain aspects of the game we complained about at the time weren't really that much of a problem, while something usually talked about as a positive wasn't in the original release order. Today's video was more a side piece to the "But Was It Broken" series. From here, I hope to look at Break Ride, Lock, Legion, and Stride. This has been Some Gamer Dude, and I'll talk to you guys next time.